And of course, she made it up to the door and realized, oh my God, where are my keys? So of course, those are her keys that John swiped. And you see this episode opens with Pete at the cabin talking to Emma. So if we remember in the previous episode, the FBI went to the Barlows to give them an update on Teresa. They had some photos. They were able to identify her necklace. And so they are confident that they found the remains of Teresa. So Pete is now showing Emma the same photos and seeing what she can remember. And Emma is saying that she doesn't remember anything that has to do with the photos. She's really not even trying to look at the photos. And the only thing that she remembers from that night is giving birth to Freya. And Pete's like, well, maybe you blocked it out. And so she's saying that, you know, basically, do you think that I could forget something that horrific? And so he's trying to explain to her that maybe this was the cause of your memory loss.
I think this is it. I think this is the event that triggered your memory blackouts.
Something happened that was so horrific, so traumatic, that you're blocking it out. And she starts telling him about these dreams that she had, which of course we saw in the flashback. She keeps having these flashbacks of her running through the woods. There's blood on her hands. There's bloody footprints, and she keeps having this recurring dream, or the way she puts it, she's explaining to him that she keeps having these recurring images, but she's not sure if it's a nightmare or a memory.
Sometimes I get these flashes, but I don't know what they are, Pete. I don't know.
So we go to the Barlows, and of course, it's a somber environment. So Saul is out back working on something, and Mary and Jake are in Teresa's room. She's finally decided that they're going to clean out her room. It's been, at this point, approximately 8 years since they've seen her, and of course the confirmation. She feel like it's time to clear out. And so Jake ends up asking her, like, are you throwing everything away?
Not keeping any of it? I should have done this a long time ago.
And so she found she had moved this photo album, and they talked a little bit, and she had made some reference to something she had made, and he was like, well, when did you have time to make that? And she was basically saying that was your favorite. He was like, well, yeah, when I was 8 years old. And so, I guess that's just how disconnected she's been from him, and what's going on with him. And so she basically hugged him and basically saying that they're going to get through this. And he reassured her that he's okay. I think Saul and Jake came to terms a long time ago. Not saying that they're not grieving, but he's basically saying that he's fine.
We're going to get through this. I'm fine, Mom.
So Emma's at work. She's finishing up on a client, and as she's removing the drape, she noticed a woman's necklace, and so she ends up having a flashback. It was a brief flashback of a necklace, which looks similar to the necklace in the photo. And she accidentally dropped her shears, and it cut the woman's arm. So when she kneeled down to pick up the shears, she had another flashback of being in the snow, and she was reaching for something. So she ended up taking a break, and the woman, if you remember from the previous episode that she was working on, was saying something about her aura and how she used to be someone else, and of course that unnerved Emma.
I sense other lives. You've been many others before you.
So she's now back, and she ends up saying to her, you're the woman from Seattle, aren't you? She didn't make a scene because at this point it was just the two of them in the back.
You're the girl from Seattle, aren't you?
And she had wrote her information down and basically told her that when she was ready to deal with it or talk about it, to come find her, basically. And she left it there.
When you're ready to figure it out, come see me.
So of course after that interaction, she got off work and she went to see Tom. And of course they talked, and Tom still feel like, you know, there's things about her that he doesn't know, and how, you know, he knows something is going on with her, but, you know, she's just not ready to tell him. And she made the comment that, you know, that's how, you know, I guess that's human nature. We all have something that we're not telling somebody all the time.
There are so many things that all of us aren't telling each other all of the time.
And, you know, she talked about him being a cop, and how being a cop, you have to be good at reading people. And so she asked him, like, just by looking at her, what does he see? How does he see her? And they talked a bit, and eventually he told her that basically he sees somebody that he wants to be with. And, you know, they had them a little entanglement. So there was a brief scene at the Barlows. Saul is kind of still working on something, and Jake is kind of off to himself, and he's looking through the photo album that he got from Teresa's room. And of course something stuck out to him. Remember, she was on the swim team, and he's looking at, you know, all of the photos of the team and her, and there was one photo that stood out to him, which was a photo of the coach, and the coach's face was scratched out. So of course he's looking at this like worse. I'm like, what was that about? Because that was the only face that had been scratched out in the photo. So it was a brief scene of Tom and Emma in the middle of their entanglement. And of course, you know, while this is going on, she's having several flashbacks of her and Parker. Well, then another creepy thing happened where they're being watched. And who's watching them? They flash to the window, and you see creepy John looking at them through the window. So we're back at the Barlows, and Mary is bringing, I guess, the stuff that she's pulling out of Teresa's room in a trash bag, and she's throwing this stuff away. Like, she's not trying to have anything as a keepsake. Like, this stuff is bagged up in trash bags, and she's tossing this stuff out. And so she starts talking to Saul, and we finally see what he's working on. He says that he's working on a bench, and he even had this plaque that he had made for Teresa.
It's a bench for her.
And Mary, you know, told me that was nice. And, you know, he started talking about the trust and how you're planning this big memorial for Teresa, and how, I guess initially they wanted to put the bench out there, but then I guess he made the comment that, you know, she probably, you know, she's never been to the place, so it doesn't seem right to put the bench in a place that doesn't have any meaning to Teresa. And they talked about this lake, I guess, where they used to vacation. And Mary was like, oh, well, you know, she used to love it there. And so, in lieu of, you know, the memorial, he, you know, said the same thing that Jake said in previous episodes, saying how they want to do something, just the three of them. And, you know, they say, you know, some nice words and leave some flowers.
I was thinking maybe we could do something, the three of us. Say some prayers, leave some flowers.
And she made the comment that, well, she has a conference that she can't miss. And of course, he kind of looked befuddled a little bit, like, I think this is more important, and whoever you have this conference with will understand. He's saying that, you know, it doesn't have to be soon, but we would like, you know, all of us to be together when we do this. And she basically told them, as she's throwing away these trophies and stuff of Teresa's in the garbage, how, you know, they can, you know, move forward with whatever they have planned, and they don't have to plan what they want to do around her.
Listen, it's a great spot. You're absolutely right on where you want to put it. You don't have to build it around me.
It's like, you're the mother. How could they plan something and leave you out of it? It's like, you know, how do you have a character? Amy Brenner played this damn character. I mean, my God. Because it's like, how do you have a character that you're supposed to be sympathetic to that you can't stand? It's like, girl, you just get on my nerves. You just makes me sick. Okay? So we go back to Louisiana. John has disabled his vehicle. and he's waiting for Tom to roll by. So in the meantime, in between time, several cars pulled over, stopped to offer help, because that's what people do. And he said, "Oh no, I'm fine. And then Tom pulled up, and of course he stopped. He pulled up in his police car. He stopped and, wanted to make sure that everything was good, and he saw that he was having trouble. And so he told him that, he will call to have a tow truck come to, pick him up to help John out. And so as Tom was about to get back into his cruiser, John was like, "Well, can you do me a favor and give me a ride into town?" He's supposed to be meeting a woman. He's staying at this hotel, and he's supposed to be meeting a woman. And initially, Tom was like, "Well, I'm actually on my way home." And eventually, he relented, and he decided to give him a ride. So, of course, during this ride, they talked a bit. And John ended up offering to buy him a drink for being helpful. So, John ends up calling Mary. And Mary updates him, basically saying that, Teresa, it's been confirmed that Teresa is gone. And that his services will no longer be required. He can move on with his life.
She's gone, John. So now it's time for you to just get on with your life.
And he's like, "No, I'm not going to do that." He's like, "I can't. I'm not going to give up on you in your time of need." Like, he considers them to be friends, and he's still helping her out. So obviously, it's not just that he's helping her out. He's actually enjoying the crap that he's doing. So there's also that. So he's basically saying that he's not going to abandon her in her time of need.
I'm gonna call you tomorrow, okay? I'm not gonna abandon you. Not when you need me most.
But then she ends up hanging up the phone anyway, and that was the end of that conversation. So there was a brief scene where, because Pete left the photos, and so Emma was going through the photos, but eventually she ends up getting herself together. And the next scene, you see she's in the bar with Tom, and Tom is looking embarrassed because Emma is clearly drunk, and she's kind of dancing around. She's the only person out there dancing and spinning and doing what drunk heifers do, and he's looking kind of embarrassed. And so eventually John pops up, and he ends up saying, "You were right, this place is the bomb." And I'm looking like, the bomb? Okay, whatever. So of course Tom, stood up and shook his hand. He was like, he said, the guy with the broken vehicle, something to that effect, and they kind of laughed about it a little bit.
Hey, you ain't lying. This place is the bomb. Hey, car trouble.
So Emma finally brings her ass off the dance floor, and she's now sitting at the table with Tom and John. So John is now clearing off the bottles off the table, and for some odd reason, keys are on the table. So as he was clearing off the bottles, he swiped the keys. Of course, nobody noticed it, and he continued on with his conversation.
At your table for one drink. I do not crash someone.
And then he started talking about how he's a writer. And they, of course, asked him, like, "Okay, so what are you writing?" And he said, "Well, I'm just a beginner. I just got this deal." And he starts talking about how the book is about a woman who committed murder and got away with it, and how her conscience got the best of her, and her conscience was her undoing.
A woman gets away with murder, but her conscience basically kills her.
And, of course, Emma was like, "So, are you sure that she did it?" And he said, yeah, I'm sure.
You sure she did it?
Oh yeah, she did it.
So eventually, Emma ends up excusing herself to go to the little girl's room. So in the next scene, I guess we see this is now the conference that Mary had scheduled. She's supposed to give a speech. And she went out and, she started talking about the trust, the reason for the trust to help to find children, and eventually she just stopped and was like, "I can't do this anymore." And of course, people in the audience are kind of looking around like, "Well, what's going on?" And she talked about how uncertainty is painful, but it does allow people to live in this fantasy that, you know, things are going to work out in the end and there's going to be a happy ending.
Uncertainty's agony, but at least it allows for fantasy.
And in so many words, she basically said that she regret pushing to find the truth. When she, you know, she didn't know, there was always this hope out there that it would, you know, not my daughter. Like, it would, like, my daughter would at some point come walking through the door and this nightmare would all be over. And of course now, since finding out the truth, it's actually been more painful than not knowing. So in the next scene, we see Emma stumbling home. How she got there, I don't know, because I didn't see a car, so it didn't look like Tom dropped her off. But she got home nonetheless, and of course she made it up to the door and realized, oh my God, where are my keys? So of course those are her keys that John swiped, and you see her checking her pockets, so she did have pockets. Her bra, all these places, you know, these two places she could have hid her keys, her shoe, I'm not sure what kind of shoe, her shoe. But no, for some odd reason, you know, her keys were on the table in a bar. So, but then you realize, okay, she has a second set just above the door. So she was still able to get into the house. So the next day, Pete is there and he's having another conversation with Emma about what she remembers. He has the photos out, and there's a flashback of a conversation that Karen and Teresa had. Teresa was basically asking her how well she knew Parker, how there's something about him, and there's something about his eyes. It's just basically there's something about him that's not right, and how he looks at her. This is Teresa.
How long have you known him?
Why are you asking me this?
Because there's something about him. There's something in his eyes.
And Karen, she just did not want to hear it. She was like, he has naturally dark eyes, and you know, there's nothing in his eyes, you know, about you. And she just really just wasn't trying to hear it. And when we go back to the present, Pete is like, so it looks like you may have remembered something. And she started talking about how she remembered, you know, it's just a feeling that she may have done something terrible, but she just can't remember.
I remember a feeling.
What feeling?
What if I was running because I did something?
And Pete was like, well, you know, in all my time, you know, the time that I've spent with you, I don't feel like I'm sitting next to a killer. And so she started saying how maybe he's too close to the situation to be objective, and how she thinks that he's in love with her, and whatever feelings he has for her is clouding his judgment. And he basically told her that I think that you want me to make things easy for you, but basically, you know, I'm not going to cast you as a villain because that's what you want to believe, and that's going to be the easiest thing for you. That way you don't have to do the work to actually remember what happened.
Well, I think you want easy answers. I think you want me to confirm that you're a bad person.
And he did, you know, basically tell her that, and I'm not in love with you. And so he left. He got his stuff together and he left. And there was this flashback of, we saw a brief, I don't know if it was the first episode, where Karen walked in. There was this body on the floor that was all bloodied and there's blood everywhere. And this, but you didn't see the face. You just saw her crying. So in this scene, she's walking towards the body, and then you see that it's Jess. And you hear her saying that don't be afraid, never let them see you be afraid. And that's what she said to her when the first night she met her in the bathroom when she was being jumped by Rose and another girl. And she, you know, got her phone and gave it to her and told her that she shouldn't be afraid and never show people that you're afraid.
Don't show it. That you're afraid.
You heard, you know, she said that, and then it flashed back to Karen's face, and then you flash back to the body on the floor, and it's Teresa saying, basically asking, did you do this? Did you do this?
Was it you? Was it you?
And so we flash back to Emma at present day, and she is just sitting there confused and just trying to make sense of what looks to be a memory. So in the end, the Barlows did decide to go to the lake to set up the bench and, you know, the plaque and the whole thing.
Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep.
They end up saying this beautiful poem and leaving flowers, and Mary, you know, was having these flashes of when they used to go there when they were kids, and just Teresa as a little girl, and I guess it seemed like how happy they were.
I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight.
To be there with each other, they just, I mean, at one point seemed like a happy family. So Emma decided to take Katerina up on her offer. This is the woman who left the card saying that when she's ready to figure things out to come and talk to her. So Katerina, if you don't remember, she lives at the motel. Now, we first saw her when when Jess was there, because Jess worked there, and she came out and she was asking Jess about her necklace. This is just after Jess gave Emma her necklace. She was asking her, you know, that stone wasn't just any stone, it was meant to protect you.
Without that necklace, you're not safe, child. That was a powerful stone. It was your protection.
And of course, unfortunately, this was the same night that Jess ended up being killed. But now Emma is there to get a reading, and you know, it wasn't going according to plan. So eventually Katerina made this tea for her, and of course she asked her, like, what is this? She was like, it's seer's tea.
I can't help you. Maybe you can help yourself.
And she ends up drinking it, and she told her, you know, basically just to close your eyes and, you know, focus on what it is that you're trying to remember. And so you see her, she's in the woods, but she's not in the past. She's the way she is now. She's in the past, in the woods. The snow and the whole thing is still the same. The scenery is the same. And she ends up finding this necklace, which was, again, the necklace that was in the photo. And you hear Katerina saying something about the necklace, like that's her necklace, and basically, how did you get her necklace?
That's her necklace, isn't it? I remember it.
And then, you know, Emma looked up and she saw Jess. And of course, you know, she kind of started to get emotional, and Jess ends up pointing like past her. And she turned, and there was nothing there. And of course, when she turned back around, Jess was gone. And I guess that tea didn't agree with her, or did what it was supposed to do, and she ends up she got sick. And she started talking about, Katerina asked her again, like, how did you get her necklace? So when she was talking about the necklace, she wasn't talking about the necklace in the memory. She was talking about Jess' necklace that Jess gave to Emma, the necklace that she's currently wearing around her neck. And she was giving her water, and you could hear like some stuff going on in the room next door, 308, because Katerina lives in 309. And she was saying how, you know, there's always something going on over there, and you know, this, you know, the shower is on and off after they finish their business, and she referred to them as dirty girls, and
up to their games next door. Let the shower run on and on after they finish their business.
How they used to come and go all the time from that room, and you know, she was referring to Jess. And of course, Emma's now like, what do you mean they used to come and go? She was like, to see the men.
They come from the men, of course. Girls like that, from a place like that.
So, I don't know if she's, you know, she was insinuating that they were prostitutes, and they were, you know, seeing the men in the room next door. I mean, that's basically what she was trying to say. And Emma, of course, got upset. So she went next door and she's banging on the door. Katerina's like, please don't just leave it alone. It's, you know, it's too dangerous. You know, you're going to get me involved, because she lives next door. And she was like, I don't, you know, you need to stay out of it. It's dangerous. You don't want to get involved with these people. Da, 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 da. And so she ends up kicking the door in. This is Emma. And whoever, you know, the room at this point looks empty. So whoever the John was went out the other door. So the shower is running. So she went into the bathroom and she saw this young girl, but damn near unconscious, in the shower. So she ends up pulling her out of the shower and putting her on the bed. Katerina, you know, came in to see, okay, is she okay? And then she basically ends up telling her to call the cops, Katerina to call the cops. And Katerina left to call the cops, and she left because, of course, being on the scene, she would have to be a bunch of questions like, why are you here? Who are you? That she wasn't trying to answer. So at this point, I was like, okay, we're hoping that Katerina actually called the cops and that girl got the help that she needed. So we flash to the Lords. This is Diana and Bodie Lord. This is Rose's parents. And Bodie makes it home. And, of course, Diana is like, oh, so how was your meeting at the lodge? And he looks kind of out of sorts, and he, you know, asked her like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "Well, didn't you say you had a meeting tonight at the lodge?" And of course, he's like, "Oh yeah, you know, it was fine."
I thought you had a lodge meeting tonight.
Oh, yes, fine.
And so he ended up going into his office. He basically told her he was going into his office and that he didn't want to be disturbed. And he went into his office, and then we saw why he was so out of sorts. He ends up opening his desk drawer and putting the motel room key in the drawer, and it was for room 308. So he was actually the John in the room that I guess nearly got out before Emma got there. So Bodie, who's pretending to be, you know, like a lot of these people pretending to be this family man, got this dirty little secret. And it's just so terrible that he has a daughter the same age as these girls, and whatever. Okay. So Emma eventually makes it home, and there is what's that, animal pelt? I don't even know what that was. It was in front of her door. So she unwrapped it, and it just has a note in there that says truth. So we flash to Mary. Mary has gone back to the bench that Saul made and basically set it alight. Like, she is angry, and her fury, I'm assuming, is going to take her a lot farther than she's already gone, which is pretty far.
I am not there. I do not sleep.
John is in his motel room, and he has all these Polaroids photos that he's been taking of Emma. So he just has them all sprawled out on his bed, and he's just looking at these images. And then we go to Emma. She has this flashback, and it's of course of her in the woods back then. She was pregnant, and you see Jess standing there, and she has this it's blood on her dress. It looked like, you know, when Emma found her body. And Karen, at the time, picks up a brick. Walks up to Jess and hits Jess with the brick. And so we see Jess fall to the ground in confusion, like she doesn't know what's going on. And then they flash to Karen's face, and then they flash back to the person on the ground, and it is now Teresa. And then you flash to present day, and it's like she is almost relieved that it seems like her memories are coming back to her, but at this point it's looking like she's responsible for Teresa's death. And that's pretty much how this episode ends. So I'm going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.